just mayonnaise. Right
All right, guys, we are here with Shut Up and Sit Down, Quinns and Paul. How are you guys doing? You just made it to Worlds.
Great.
Tell us about the journey. How's it been? How'd you get here?
Yeah, we took a plane.
Yep.
And I tell you what, like, if we weren't excited enough to arrive in Minnesota, you look out the plane flying in from Vancouver, and it's just a bog. Like, it's just this dark green.
Hang on. You said. So we've had this conversation where I looked out and there were lots of lakes, and you were like, "Isn't that nice?" And I said, "I've seen lots of
but
lakes before."
But that's not funny.
But that's what really happened. Is you berated me for being bored of lakes.
And but now, because that's our off-camera real-life persona, and then. But in reality, I found the lakes very beautiful, and I'm very happy to be here. And I was genuinely excited to come to Worlds. How are you?
I had that guy next to me, like I said, there was a guy next to me reading music score, and I thought that's very cultured.
Was he humming, or?
He was just sort of reading and tapping his foot.
He was part of a string quartet.
On the plane.
With the guy who was sat next to you, and I thought, what a great, cultured, interesting guy. And I look out the window, and I look back, and he's unconscious, and he's completely covered in biscuits. Like, there are just biscuits everywhere. I don't know how this has happened. This steward was a very sassy steward, was handing out biscuits, so I got like 2 of them. And the guy's like, he's got a couple of unopened biscuits, he's got a half-open packet, he's got biscuits all down here. So that was my flight.
I mean, was it an emergency, or?
He was alive.
An emergency biscuit.
He was in a biscuit coma.
This actually is very relevant to my next question.
Great.
Because
we talk about the Bake Off?
Well, I do want to talk about the Bake Off, but specifically, you are now in Canada, right?
Vancouver.
You're in Vancouver,
BC.
which is kind of separate from Canada, right? In the grand scheme
Culturally?
of culture, right?
Physically, if you look at British Columbia, there's not that many huge settlements. Well, it's only really sort of significant. Right. And as you start to go west in Canada, it is a weird kind of anomaly that it's a big city out west.
Well, when did you get there?
January the 2nd, I think.
How does it? Tell us your impressions.
I really like it. I think it's really good. It's really feels really savvy and switched on, and I like the people who live there. I like talking to Canadians. They feel quite smart and quite funny.
Yeah.
And I know it's a stereotype, but I feel like I engage with people better there. And
you get recognised more, is what you're saying.
I do get recognised a lot more as well. Like, I wander around London and nothing happens. No, it's true. About once a week or once a fortnight, someone just stops me on the street in Vancouver, which is really nice. And they're all really pleasant about it.
Do they buy you a drink or anything, or just say hello?
It's usually people who say hello, or just bump into me or ask me something about a game and this sort of thing. And it's actually really, really pleasant.
I'm visiting Paul at the minute, and while I'm in Vancouver, I got onto a bus, and as I was putting like change, because there's stupid buses in Vancouver, and I had to pay with literally nickels and dimes. I put it in the machine, and the bus driver goes, "Quinns!" And I was so startled, like the most sort of waking up from a dream moment, and then realised, finished paying, and then walked into the bus because you can't have a conversation because you're holding up.
You're holding up the line, yeah.
So Shut Up and Sit Down is obviously like
world famous.
It's super famous. I mean, you guys are legit. You're household names in many houses
in Vancouver, at least
literally dozens of houses.
Almost dozens of houses. Tell it, what has it been like? So you started out, right? So you guys were both video game people. You're writing the reviews, and then you got into the tabletop. Welcome. You had a good time. And now all of a sudden, like, you're like one of the you're the authoritarians on board games and
in as much as fun can have an authority.
So where do you sit? How does Shut Up and Sit Down? How does it feel right now? Shut Up and Sit Down. What's the general vibe of your guys' production?
You have an answer question.
I was immediately about to defer to you. I'll try.
Oh no, I can do this.
Do you want to start, and then I'll frantically get.
When you think
the
of something to
cogs
say,
going.
interrupt me. Whatever I'm saying, just be like, oh yeah. It's exciting. I think what's exciting for me actually is that while we've grown and that's nice, it's more exciting to me where board games are, because the sales in the industry are just blowing up. Like, we've seen all these angel investors coming in, like FFG and Asmodee buying up everyone, including Fantasy Flight now, and that meaning big changes. We're going to get more games. We're going to get better games. More people are talking about games. Board game cafes are showing up everywhere. Like Gen Con is increasing in size. They're going to have to move out of that expo center, I think. There were discussions about that.
We've been talking about it.
Yeah, they're talking about it because they've just grown too big.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. And that makes the stuff we do with Shut Up and Sit Down seem like less exciting. All I can look at is where board games are going to be.
Yeah.
And it's nice as well because anyone you talk to is working in an industry that's growing, which makes everyone happy.
Absolutely.
Yourselves included, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Yes.
Well, so tell me tell me the why. I've always wanted to know, I think I've asked you this before, but I continue to wonder. Why is it so good that tabletop is growing? Aside from our own, just we happen to be in the business of tabletop, but is there something more to the hobby, to the genre, that makes it important for it to be, more engaging, more open to the public?
I think so. I think that board games fill a really important role in a family unit. I think it allows, parents and kids to play together. It allows people to not necessarily drift apart. It allows people to create memories together. Like I think we were a lot bigger on Hyperbeton when we started Shut Up and Sit Down, but we said a lot of things like board games are really just engines to create memories with people. And the thing that makes the hobby special for me is I've played a lot of MMO video games, and obviously video games are amazing in their own right, but the thing about board games is I end up having all these little gems, like crystals in my head of oh, do you remember when we played Twilight Imperium and I got so angry at you that I had to leave the house? Or
that's embellishment.
No, it's not. Well, it was Memoir 44, and we were playing a campaign of it, and it was we were playing a campaign, and in Memoir 44, every mission leads it. It's one of the best games of all time. And playing a campaign with a friend is beautiful. But I was the heroic Nazis, and I was winning, and then there was a map in Holland, and it was just infantry.
Oh, that one.
Only infantry, and the Nazis, the heroic Nazis. That is used entirely ironically.
You guys getting all this?
Yeah, sorry. Team Covenant's YouTube channel was taken down today. All the Nazis parachute into this Dutch airport. And Paul was the Dutch, and Paul rolled reinforcements. No, you got tanks.
Oh, that.
On a map with no cover.
You got
that's
tank reinforcements?
Tank reinforcements rolled randomly off a chart that just steamrolled.
Oh, sure.
Those thousands of Nazis with no cover.
Those poor Nazis.
Yes.
Turns out a man in the air with a parachute versus a tank only ever goes one way.
They never stood a chance.
And I was so angry, I went, Paul, do you want anything from the shop? And just left to get stuff from the shop. And when I came back, I was calm again. But that makes me happy, and I think that's what board games are good for, because they allow friends and families to make those memories that you share together. It's true.
I think we really miss. I mean, we both grew up with board games and video games, because you've got a whole collection that goes back. I had a whole load
and
of
role
stuff
playing
about
as
that.
well, of course.
But also, I mean, I grew up playing. When we played multiplayer games, we kind of played them all together at home. You played Micro Machines all at home around the
local
same
co-op.
thing. And we lost a lot of local co-op for quite a long time. And it's just nice to play things with people in the same space.
When I have to say we meant local multiplayer. That's going to bug me. If I was watching this at home, I'd be really annoyed by that.
Local co-op or multiplayer.
There you go.
Yeah, it's nice to play things with people. Play is a brilliant social activity, and we shouldn't lose that. And we shouldn't lose that as adults. There are so many animals that play. Play is a fundamental thing that birds play and mammals play, and I don't know about fish. Dolphins aren't fish. But whales play and stuff.
They immediately
Tuna are well known for their play.
They're not making memories.
What is it about us that makes so many of us grow up and stop playing? We shouldn't do that, and it's great if we can play at home with our kids or with our families. I think play is great educationally. Board games can be great for giving people new ideas, new concepts. It's just, I don't know what's not good about it.
If you're looking for the heart of Shut Up and Sit Down, we talk less about how wonderful board games are, because we've been doing this for 4 years now, and we've been doing it for 4 years. Yeah. But if you're looking for the heart of Shut Up and Sit Down, it's that every podcast we read out and discuss a folk game, which are games that our readers have sent in that don't require anything. It's and God, we were just talking on the last podcast about how some kids at school realised that. This is a long story, but totally worth it.
I'm so glad I'm on the edge of my seat.
There was a netball pole, and some girls at the school realised that if you all hold hands and one of you holds the netball pole and you run around, you kind of wrap around each other in a big group hug, and that's nice. So some other people at the school realised that if you do this, and the person at the very close base of the pole stops, the momentum is transferred along all the children, and the final person is like flung off their feet. And so we were discussing on the podcast the story that a commenter wrote in, and that one day something like 100 kids did this, with the kids at the end sprinting, and then the kid at the beginning stops and pulls back as hard as they can. And like, just describing like the kid at the end is flung like 16 feet or something.
He was sent into orbit. Or
And
something.
and like into a bush, and like that's great, and that is, and we will find excuses to discuss this stuff when Shut Up and Sit Down, because play is exciting, board games are exciting, card games are exciting, role-playing games are exciting. This is it's just good. It's just human as well.
And that's another thing I like that we do, is I feel that we're not just like stuff that is on a board on your table. We've reached out into role-playing and folk games and kind of
Miniature
social
games as
weird
well.
games experiments. Quinns and Brendan and a friend of ours called Laurie just got into a van that was
the
a
LHS
bike
bike
shed
shed.
spaceship.
Yeah, it was some people in the. There's a video on this that I would recommend people Google. If
Yeah.
you Google "Shut Up and Sit Down"
LHS
bike shed. It's some people who, how Star Trek and
I was
Battlestar
Googling that
Galactica-
just the other day, and it had nothing to do with that video, I gotta tell you.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, maybe don't click on the first hit.
Yes.
Go for the second.
Assess before you click.
But you know how Star Trek has the shuttle and BSG has Raptors, which are the three-man craft. Some industrious people in the UK realised that is the exact same size as like a caravan, or like a trailer home, you'd call it, and they just converted one of these into a
that's awesome.
a real life video game. So you climb in and it's all monitors and everything, and you have to sit around and all work together to fly this ship.
That's
As things
excellent.
go wrong. It
That's
is.
a really good idea.
Yeah, it was great.
So, what we kind of gotten to why games are the way that they are and why they're important, and there is a ton of research on like play and why it's so significant. But why now? Like, what is it that's happened? Is it? I always had this thesis that because of like the digital devices and we're locked into iPods and iPhones a lot more, that is the cause.
We want something physical. We want to share time with our humans.
Is that what it is?
A
Is
real
it-
human connection.
Is it that that's where we're starting to pull back now, and that we're going to start to pull back more and more as this stuff continues to advance?
I think it's loads of things. I don't know if it's one thing. You talk a lot about the importance of physical
That's certainly the fun
things.
answer, and I've been saying that for a long
Yeah,
time. There's
yeah.
also the internet.
Yes. No, he's
internet.
absolutely
What's
right.
that?
The internet. Let me tell you. Are
It's
you
on
on email?
computers now.
Yeah. So, but I've talked to the Stevium, who are the UK's only board game distributor that survived. And they were saying the big difference is people could buy games online. They could read which games to buy.
Yeah.
And otherwise, board games were quite niche. And so now all we have is just a critical mass of people going, oh, hey, I can read on the internet that board games are amazing, and this is the one I should buy. And oh, look, I can buy it
Yeah.
extremely easily and have it sent to my house.
No, that helps a lot. I think it's a whole bunch of different things have happened at the same time, and that's a factor. I think the growth of digital entertainment is a factor. We like physical things. I think the general growth of gaming, because video gaming exploded, and I think that's got more people playing, and that's become a generational thing. Because honestly, I don't know what people did in the 70s or 80s. I grew up in the 80s, and we watched a hell of a lot of television. I don't want to. If I ever have kids, I don't want them watching as much television as I watched as a kid. I actually don't want that. I would rather we got together and played video games. Okay, we did a bunch of things. But I'd be happy if gaming was a more, prominent part of a family than just all sitting together watching TV. That's how I feel.
Sure.
But I feel gaming's taken off as a more acceptable thing that we do. The internet, as you say, the local multiplayer thing. I guess distribution for them has just got better as well.
Distribution is better. Yeah.
Maybe getting better.
But I think it's lots of factors. I don't know, the generational thing makes me think, because certainly not in the case of my parents, but now we have people who are whose parents played games, whose parents played Dungeons and Dragons in the 70s.
Yeah.
And it perpetuates. I interviewed a guy a while back now who works at Blizzard, and he was one of the guys who is fundamentally in like the Diablo series.
Yeah.
And we're just talking now about the stage that we're at, where he's taking his kids to watch Transformers, which he watched when he was young. It's the same voice actor. And that there are now sort of cross-generational franchises or ideas or forms of entertainment.
I gotta wonder, like, you know, how much of the value of the Star Wars brand is parents going,
Yeah.
you're gonna watch this
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Like I did.
You better enjoy it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I was
No
at
McDonald's afterwards, otherwise.
Exactly.
a Vancouver party the other day and talking to
A Vancouver party?
A Vancouver. Now I'll tell you about those after. But talking to one of the attendees there, and we were just talking about Star Trek because she had a Star Trek kind of fancy dress thing. And she said, "How did you get into Star Trek?" And I just said, "Well, it was on TV, and I occasionally watched it because I thought that's what everyone did." And she was like, "Oh, my dad got me into it." I was like, "Oh, wow, yeah, I guess that happens now."
Yeah.
I find that kind of unhealthy, to be honest. I mean, I would not want to force any of the franchises I loved as a kid onto my kids.
Oh, Donald from
I'd let
Board
them
with
choose.
Life was talking about that the other day because he's just had a baby, and the idea that he doesn't want to be the dad who's like, "Look at this is really good, you're going to like this." He's worried that he's going to do that.
That's fair. Yeah, biker mice from Mars is not exactly the best thing to
Yeah,
throw on my
that's
kids.
true. Yeah, choose wisely.
I got one more like hardline tabletop question.
Here we go.
Uh-oh.
Because
Brace for it.
so the next the evolution here, given our conversation that we've had, let's talk about the retail store. Let's talk about the actual arbiter of the space that is gaming. You've been hosting some Netrunner events in
I've
pubs.
been hosting a lot of Netrunner
You've done,
events.
and a lot of people come to that, and you see the old paradigm of game stores and kind of how they've been presented in the past. So, what is the role of the game store in the next 10 years?
I think it's unquestionably becoming a community center. Come shop. I mean, like, I say that not because I know a great deal, but because Leisure Games in London, which is the best, I don't know which camera I'm looking to, but the best board game shop in London, like without a shadow of a doubt, has very slowly been transitioning, like more tables, you know, not less stock, but less stock on the shop floor, because their bread and butter now is like school kids who come in and play really bad card games. I don't know if you guys have had more luck with that, but
It happens.
I mean, that's the case, right? Like, and also board game cafes are growing up that also sell board games. Those are just absolutely everywhere. And you know what's interesting is in UK, I've heard of this in a few cities. I think Vancouver's the same, maybe. But there's certainly in the UK, in various cities, there is a schism between the Netrunner community who play in a pub and will really try and be welcoming and try and think about like being, you know, social and warm to new people and having fun, and then the Netrunner scene in the game store does not care about, you know, being social so much and cares about the game. And I've been kind of actively encouraging the growth of the first and getting rid of the latter, because I don't think the latter is good for anyone. Certainly not the
I hope
industry.
that happens, because the thing that bothers me is obviously you can very easily buy so much stuff online now. And the thing is, those brick and mortar stores are kind of lovely, and they're run by people who really care about what they're doing, who really know what they're doing. And I think it would be very sad if we lost those spaces and we lost that kind of ability to congregate, because that, again, goes back to what we were originally saying at the very start, the whole point of getting people together to enjoy themselves.
I mean, it's part of the bigger question of what does the high street... Do you say high street in America?
High Street?
Like
I think we say it.
Main
I've
street.
never said it.
The main street.
Not in this interview.
What does it... Sorry, what does the main street in a city look like, which has shops? Like, what does that become in the 21st
A lot of ice
century?
cream.
Loads of ice cream.
A lot of ice
Boba tea.
Yeah, that's right.
It has to be people, right? It has to be just
And
a
bike
ton
shops.
of... you have to have a reason to go,
Yeah.
is the thing. Because we can buy stuff and get it shipped to our house, and we can have friends over. So why am I going to the store, right? Like, that's the ultimate question that the store has to answer, I think. Certainly that's what we're trying to do.
You have to clean if you have friends over there.
And you do have to... That's right.
Oh my
Leave it to the
God, yeah,
shopkeeper
that's
to clean. And he'll provide the Mountain Dew.
Who cleans the Team Covenant store?
It depends on
No
what
one?
year it is.
Yeah, no one.
Tim is our main retail
actually
employee right now.
naturally clean.
And he
Yeah, he
kills
does
it.
a fine
It
job.
takes like an hour.
It's an hour
Every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
It's
Serious
a lot.
business.
Which, you got a lot of tables in the bathrooms, and it's important. And I'll tell you what, cleanliness is like, we've been like,
The routine compliment.
we have been
It's so clean here.
holding
Yeah.
that torch
How
for a long time.
like damning is that on the industry that you walk into a board game shop and you're like, there's no poop in the corner.
I know. No, but that's the whole thing, right? That's there's been failings in the past. If like, Zach and I and you, especially growing up playing in these tournaments, like 12, 13 years old, it's like, what's being done? It's like plastic tables, plastic chairs, and nobody's cleaning anything. It's all dusty, and it's like, well, you wonder why it's not growing, right?
I mean, it's important to have that kind of welcoming space, and the idea that you can come into somewhere and feel comfy, and that you will, be well lit and not. some dingy corner.
I think it's kind of like an old paradigm, kind of like you were saying earlier, in that there was a certain niche element to board games in the past, and that was intimidating. You couldn't educate yourself.
Yeah.
And so if you did have a shop that was selling them, it was easy to take that clientele for granted, because where else do you go?
Yeah.
So all the fringe elements of running a shop become incidental or irrelevant. So cleanliness and all these kinds of things. So that potentially can pervade into becoming a stereotype where it's like, yeah, they sell games and that's the end of the sentence.
It is so scary how many shops fall into like are embodiments of the stereotype. If you walk in and the shop owner doesn't care about you, and is like will actively like. There's a store in Vancouver, Drexel Games in Vancouver. Vancouver's biggest game shop has an upvoted Yelp review that someone walked in and like it's a 0-star Yelp review. Someone walks in and said like, I asked for this game, and they snorted and laughed at me, and then marked my question on a list of annoying questions.
Oh no!
Like they had a piece of paper
in front of them.
Yeah, according to the Yelp review. Yeah.
Whoa.
It's like.
I mean, I'm not that surprised.
I mean, there is a shop in London which I think I can imagine not
do that.
malicious, but certainly not.
Which is funny because we've had conversations with the leisure games people where they're like, lots of people come in and play Yu-Gi-Oh! And we're not crazy about that, but they can do that if they want to, and we're here for them to do that if they want to.
Absolutely.
But I think there's a lot of, not just a lot of value, but I think it's a good idea to promote a space that's accessible to all kinds of people, get lots of people playing, promote accessibility, diversity, welcomeness.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get lots of different people in playing.
I mean,
let's share the fun.
The board game industry, we since we started Shadow of the Den, does need some cleaning house, whether that's literally in terms of you spending an hour cleaning your store all the time, or the fact that like I know I'm going to have a great time at Worlds, and I'll end the interview with this. It is only men here. There is only men. It is only men, and that's. I said, like, I really do my level best to, like, provide early or always available tickets for women at my Netrunner tournaments. And the reason I've said why is, like, if it is only men at an event I'm hosting, it just doesn't feel like a complete event. It's not as interesting. It feels like I'm wasting my time more. It just feels really odd.
Right.
And because nothing else in the world is only men, but I do. Yep. So that's strange. And that is something that we would like
you have
to.
the risk that will also just self-perpetuate.
Of course it does. Of course it does.
It does.
Yeah.
It absolutely does. All right. Well, we're all on the same page. That's good. Talk about.
Check.
On that note.
Let's talk about the future of Shut Up and Sit Down. Right. So, any exciting things coming up? Any changes? Tell me everything. Tell us
Give us the full plan.
everything.
Tell the world.
We
Announce everything.
We are currently. What can we say? We are currently in the process of. We want to develop and expand the business. We've been sort of like. We've got comfortable. Our donors who keep the site alive. It's just donors who run Shut Up and Sit Down.
Who are fantastic.
Who are unbelievable. If you're watching this and you donate, that is amazing, and thank you so much. And we're so grateful. And we're finally just about getting used to that now. We've stabilized, and so now we're looking at what we can do.
Yeah.
And we have some big projects which we won't be able to announce for a while, but we are working on now.
Excellent.
So that's good. But yeah, we have to be a bit cagey because that's exciting, right?
But we are hoping to grow.
We want to grow with the board game industry.
I think
let's put it that way.
we were a caterpillar, and now we've got to the bit where we're like, this is where our home is. So we make the pod, and after a while we come out as a butterfly.
But we don't know how long it'll be. You know what's messed up about caterpillars is like, no, think about this.
I was hoping the conversation would go this route.
Where you like an animal, and you think that's a great animal, and then someone says, actually, did you know that animal does this? And you go, oh, I really like that animal. And now I don't.
No, look, this has just occurred to me. If you're a caterpillar, right, and you go, like, your brain... I'm really tired, listen. So your brain is just going, hey, you know what, lie down for a while. And then you lie down and you produce a chrysalis around yourself and you're like, okay, I guess this is nice. And then you become a butterfly. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Like
You'd be very confused.
You had like a big Thanksgiving dinner and you're like, I'm going to lie down for a bit. And then you wake up in a week and you've got wings.
Puberty in a way.
It is like puberty.
You're just having fun.
But way
and
more.
then you're having fun. But not consistently, because I'm a man now. Hello, girls! Oh.
That never happened with me.
It never happened with me either.
Are you sure?
No, I did okay. I got
okay.
I got taller at a sensible rate. That was sorted.
I just grew hair everywhere like that. It was so bad and weird.
Went from slug to Wookiee overnight.
Yeah, exactly. It was.
What did I do? I could be wrong in retrospect, but I feel like my Adam's apple got huge.
This is
just
what
went.
what was this was the question, right? It was us. It was about puberty.
caterpillars.
There-
It was.
so you're going to become caterpillars.
You're going to become the shut up and sit down butterfly that we've
Butterfly.
always
There
known
you
you
go.
could be.
Okay.
That's what we'd like.
Right?
Okay.
And-
But you're a pupa right now? Is that what we've
We're
decided?
about to become a pupa.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Still a caterpillar. Okay.
Nailed it.
I've got
But we haven't been eaten by any birds or anything. We've avoided that.
Yeah,
That's true.
Although if any birds did want to eat us, we would be willing to listen to that.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
I have to see you.
But
angel investors.
That's
Yeah.
right.
AKA
They,
birds.
they swoop in.
Well, hey,
They buy
thank
you
you
out.
guys so much.
Thank you.
Man,
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Absolutely.
We're gonna do that.
To all of us blossoming into beautiful butterflies, to
so sorry to your
embrace the
audience.
industry. Yeah.
We're really
you have to
tired.
find your own chrysalis. You can't have ours.
Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Quinns and Paul from Shut Up and Sit Down. Check them out, shutupandsitdown.com. We're Team Covenant. We got more coming from World, so stay tuned.